mentioned, this has been Technology and Sustainable Agriculture. Thank you, Mr. Mickey Espada, for including this segment in today's event. It's very, it's been near and dear to my heart as a farm owner, and as Bayet mentioned, I'm from Iowa originally, and as we started, I worked at John Deere for many years, but we on our farm in Iowa, we actually have a lot of similar experiences and challenges on the farm as we've experienced here in Puerto Rico. So this is my 5th trip to Puerto Rico, working with a lot of very resilient and very innovative farms in Puerto Rico, and it's been really exciting to see. So I'm really excited to be able to share some of that with you today. So as you can see, there's some pictures up here that show, this is on my farm back in Iowa. We had a flood in 2019. We actually had a hurricane in Iowa in 2020. So we did experience flood damage, and we are using things like satellite imagery, drone imagery to be able to accurately assess and monitor that damage, and really it's more effective and cost effective and more efficient than walking a field and physically walking a field. So it's been really fun to be able to work with Puerto Rico for the past year now. And so what is sustainable agriculture? Really, ultimately, we're trying to feed a growing population. You're trying to produce enough food to feed that population. And if you look at what the United Nations has published, they're saying that we're going to be at 9.7 billion people globally by 2050. So to be able to reach that need, you basically have to the growers are going to have to produce more food on the same land. So more food to feed a growing population, and that's the global challenge. And there are also other challenges in Puerto Rico, too, as you experienced with the hurricane, and what we've heard has happened when an event like that happens in an island, you're limited to resources coming into the island. And so less imports, more sustainable, be able to grow more on your own land. And if you think about that, how can you do that? Produce more on the same land. Every farm is different. My farm in Iowa is different. I was at a cacao farm yesterday in western Puerto Rico. Every farmer is looking for the same thing. They want to be more productive, and they want to produce more, and they really want to earn more. So a lot of them have the same goals, but they also have a lot of the same challenges. So if you look at these different variables to consider, we have things that you can, maybe they're uncontrolled, things like weather, a disease or a pest, an insect that may, take over. Those are things we can't control, but we can detect them and maybe respond to those, hopefully early. And then there's things that we can manage, things like crops. What seeds do you put in the ground? How much nutrients do you put on those seeds? That ultimately will help potentially produce more crops. And then how do you manage the land? So there are some things you can manage, but the challenge is, do you have the right information to make those decisions on how to manage those crops? And so one of the things in terms of the variables that you can't manage, things like a disease event or a pest event, these are some images from, it's an organization called Go Mango. They're you're in southern Puerto Rico. And these images are from some drone captures at Go Mango. And what they're looking at is vegetation health post-Hurricane Maria. So Hurricane Maria happened. These sensors are now economical. Back when I was in college, they were very expensive. Now they, are commercial, they're off the shelf, and they now can sense things that our eyes can't see. So they can sense near infrared. So our eyes can see color. These sensors can see vegetation health. And so it's really interesting that they are now documenting things like crop stress, damage, and then even getting into biomass to see how productive these crops are. And then with those same images, and this picture actually shows some of the same images from Go Mango, they are also mapping or documenting digitally every single plant on their operation, the irrigation on their operation, and those tools are now available to them. They're using them today. They've got drone imagery. They have mobile devices where they can go out and capture information about the plants. And then the unfortunate thing is they didn't have these tools before Maria, but they do now have a digital inventory if there was another unfortunate event, they could assess their damage. They could collect another image and do a before and after comparison of their operation. And they could assess their damage in minutes, not days and months that it would take to go out and walk the fields and assess the damage. So really having those digital inventories are important of the assets, but also there's digital inventories of their operations. So for example, where did they plant certain varieties? Where did they put down certain nutrients? In this case, as Bayet mentioned, I worked for John Deere for 12 years. I was a software architect that led a team that we had very advanced equipment, IoT sensors on tractors and combines and machines, and that data is digitally sent to the cloud. So that occurs today, but the challenge that we've seen in Puerto Rico is it's a lot of manual crops, hand-picked, like I said, cacao yesterday, that's a picture of mango. These are hand-picked produce that they still need to inventory. And if there is an issue with the crops themselves, they will then have to report within 72 hours where did that crop come from. So they need digital tools to advance, and they're using them today. So this is just some images of whether you're collecting the data in a tractor or on a phone, it's possible. And then with all that information, I believe Sol will talk about here later too, is using all that information and insights. So the farms want to know, how do I improve? If you have a document of what you planted and what how you nurtured that crop, and then also what yielded at that same location, there are tools to do all of these insights that will tell you, if I put down more nutrients, did it make a difference? So they're being more efficient for how they're spending their funding on the products they're putting in the ground. And then at the end of the day, the final piece of this, and why is it important for this, the group that that is here today, is I just wanted to mention that it's not only for individual farms, and these are some great advances in technology for individual farms, and they're using it for themselves to become more efficient, but they're also using it in research with universities, in government, so this data is also enabled through sharing. So for example, one individual farm may have a crop insurance claim. In the case of a hurricane, it may be an entire island that has crop insurance claims. So you can imagine if those digital tools weren't available, or the inventories aren't available, it's very manual and time consuming. And then also the operations information, that really enables a supply chain, information to the supply chain that you could then assess how much food is available, when is it available. And so, enabling not only the farmers, but it also enables an entire industry via this data sharing. So that's really a summary of what we've been doing in Puerto Rico over the past year. It's been really exciting, and I'm really looking forward to seeing all the additional advances that will come out in agriculture. So thank you.